Okay, Alexander, we have been talking about the row in the White House, the battle for control between the Clinton faction and the Obama faction, and I think we've kind of called this one. I think actually we've definitely called this one correctly because we had CNN come out with an article where they say that Kamala Harris has been kind of cut out of the loop and that the Biden administration is like leaving her out of important decisions and actually sabotaging her at times. And CNN said this is all about the R word and misogyny and all that stuff. Okay, they said it's all about the identity politics stuff. But to be honest, it's none of that. I think it's just about the war between the Clinton faction and the Obama faction, and Kamala is part of the Obama faction, and I truly believe that the Biden team, and I say team, Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and all the people that are in and around the Biden power structure, which is really a power structure that's concerned with I believe profits and money and stuff like that, and not really so much about power per se, as in ruling the United States. I think they're in it for the 10%, for the big guy kind of stuff. But I believe like that faction is aligned with the Clinton neocon faction of the White House, and I say that because I think that like Jill Biden, and Hunter Biden, and these people in and around Biden are concerned that the Obama faction is going to push them out because they want Kamala in as president. So they want to stay in the Oval Office because they're selling artwork for $500,000. So we're starting to see these factions really collide, and CNN has now openly admitted it. Jen Psaki came out with a statement after the CNN article, and she said, actually a tweet, and she said, for anyone who needs to hear it, at VP is not only a vital partner to POTUS, but a bold leader who has taken on key important challenges facing the country, from voting rights to addressing root causes of migration to expanding broadband. So she's a vital partner to the POTUS, just a vital partner. And she's addressed three very important issues for the United States: voting rights, okay, the root causes of migration. She hasn't been to the border as borders are. She's just addressed the root causes of migration and expanding broadband. Those are her big accomplishments. Anyway, Alexander, what do you think of this? In another quick video, we've been right about this the whole way through, and now CNN is catching up to us.
It's actually an absolutely fascinating article. I mean, reading the CNN article, obviously you have to parse it, you have to go through it with a tooth comb and understand the opaque Kremlin-style language that some of this comes up with. But anyway, the first thing to understand is that it's quite clear from this account that Kamala runs an absolutely dysfunctional office. Even some of her own staffers seem to be extremely unhappy with the caliber of many of the people that are working for her. And there's an almost universal acceptance that they're not up to very much. I would say that some of this looks to me like a little bit of special pleading. People basically blaming the fact that the chief, Kamala herself, who, remember, is supposed to be the leader of her team, for the fact that she is making blunders. They don't want to blame her. They want to blame her team instead. But I accept it's highly likely, as we like to say in England, that indeed the team isn't every bit as bad as is made out to be. The second is that there is intense rivalry and hostility between Kamala's team and Biden's team, that they just don't get on. The staffers between the two don't work well. And there is a widespread belief within Kamala's team that Biden's team is actively trying to sabotage Kamala in order to kind of keep her down. So there is that. There's also some degree, clearly, of mutual personal disrespect. I use my words very carefully. Between Biden himself and Kamala, they don't appear to get on particularly well. But overarching all of this, it's exactly what you said. This is a factional battle for power. And one of the most interesting things about this is when you comb through this CNN article carefully as I did. It took me a while to try and get on top of it last night because I said it's so opaque and meandering and circular in places. But it's quite obvious that what Kamala is angry about and what her team are angry about is that as far as they are concerned, they are not being given the absolute top jobs that they feel Kamala should have. Not top jobs, by the way, by which I mean difficult jobs. I mean high profile, easy jobs that will set Kamala up to be the next presidential candidate come 2024, or even sooner if Biden has to step down earlier. So that is an enormous grievance about this. So we learn, for example, that she was very angry and very resentful about the fact that she was appointed board czar. I mean, she doesn't seem to understand that the president is the head of the executive and he picks his people to take jobs, and it's not their purpose, their job to start second guessing what the president is doing or go on a kind of, if you like, work to rule type situation when the president gives them a job. She didn't want to be made board czar because it involves hard grind, difficult decisions, going to the border, making decisions there. She didn't want it. She thought that it would be difficult for her. She thought she wouldn't get much good or positive publicity for herself. And so essentially she's boycotted it and is grouching about the fact that the president has put her in that kind of position. She's also very unhappy, clearly, that she hasn't been given a bigger diplomatic role. And she's talking up, or her team are talking up, this triumph that she's supposed to have had in Paris when she was sent to talk to Macron, which was, an easy visit because at this particular point in time, Macron himself wants a better relationship with the administration for various reasons we can discuss in another video. So it's a factional battle. It's a factional battle between the Biden team and the Harris team, and clearly behind it all there is the even bigger factional battle that's going on between the Biden faction, the Clinton faction, the Obama faction, as they all struggle for control. And by the way, the issues that you said, the explanations that were given for some of the reasons that were given, the excuses that were given, which centered on identity and all those kind of things, well, they're absolutely there in the article. And there's a strong suggestion that Biden should be doing everything he possibly could to help her, to make her succeed, not because she's competent, not because she's a person who's able to do these things, but because she is entitled to succeed because of who she is, and that Biden is somehow failing, and the administration is somehow failing in not making it possible for her to succeed in that way, as opposed, presumably, to letting her succeed on the basis of her own hard work and abilities. So you get a tremendous sense of entitlement on the part of somebody clearly out of their depths, clearly unable to do the work that they've been assigned to do, clearly very resentful about that, clearly strongly feeling that she should be the next president of the United States, and at the same time, a widespread feeling on the part of the Biden team and some of her own team that she's probably not up to the job, that her own team is dysfunctional, and all of this happening against the backdrop of factional infighting within the Democratic Party of the sort that we've talked about.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Clinton team definitely, it's my view that they like Biden in office because he's an empty suit and they can run the foreign policy and other departments as they wish. They would probably like control of the more control of the surveillance state and of the domestic issues, I think that's kind of under the control of the Obama faction. Obama wants to get rid of Biden because they want Kamala in there, and I think they would like control of the foreign policy and of the institutions that the Clinton team and the neocons now control. So I really believe that it's behind all of this is the Obamas going at it with the Clintons, and the Biden team has kind of said, you know what, our interests lie with the Clintons for now, because they want to keep us in power. Where if Obama had his way, Biden would be gone tomorrow, and Kamala would be sitting in the Oval Office, and he would be focusing then on the State Department and getting control of that.
I agree, but the point is, it's ruthless. It's utterly dysfunctional. There is clearly a major split at the heart of the United States government. We've been saying this for ages. And coming back to what you said, of course, the Clintons have a particular interest in foreign policy, partly because Hillary is so openly aligned with the neocons and the liberal interventionists. But exactly. You anticipated my very point. That is why they have a particular interest in it. Whereas, of course, Obama's people are much more interested in domestic policy because, of course, that's where their connections pull them towards.
Community organizing.
So exactly. So you can understand the conflicts that are happening at the moment. But again, it's very revealing for me about Kamala's personality and the fact that she has this enormous sense of entitlement, this belief that people should be helping her to succeed, as opposed to, she's only, after all, Vice President of the United States. It's obviously too much to ask of her, that she works hard and does her job well, and that brings its own rewards, and perhaps ultimately its political rewards. That's not how these people think at all. They think entirely of the Vice President being built up, making, being prepared, being positioned in order to take over, as opposed to the Vice President working hard, being a good and successful white Vice President and winning the support of the American people in that kind of way. It's a very interesting revelation about the mindset of the people who work in the White House, in the Democratic Party, and in the political class generally.
Yeah. All right. We'll end it there. I mean, she believes she's entitled because that's the way she's gone throughout her whole career
absolutely. Yeah.
Is getting that entitlement and getting those positions because of her entitlement beliefs. So naturally she thinks I should be president. I mean, that was the deal they worked out. Yeah. That's why I think they worked out the deal, Biden, Harris, and I don't think they thought it out too well. But before, I believe it was South Carolina, and before Obama stepped in to get the endorsement for Biden and then clear the deck for Biden to win the nomination. And I'm sure the agreement was, okay, you're going to get the nomination, and my girl Kamala Harris is going to be the VP. And I'm sure they did the backroom deal to sort it out, but they didn't think it over too well, and that's why they're stuck where they are stuck.
I completely agree. I think this is exactly correct, and as you're absolutely right that Kamala's whole career has been based upon being helped upwards, and she finds the fact that she's now been expected to do her own work. I think she's finding that unusual and doesn't quite know how to deal with it. I have to say that the fact that she was unhappy about being appointed board style just astonishes me. I mean, the idea that the vice president should be able to decide her own job. That seems to me absolutely bizarre, when it's the president who's actually in charge of the executive. But that tells you an awful lot again about the kind of person that we're dealing with and the kind of system that is functioning in Washington at the moment. Everything is bargained for and negotiated, and it looks as if the president is not expected to head his own team.
Yeah, that's because, Biden was never going to really be president, according to Kamala Harris and the Obama team. Biden was never going to really serve out his term. And so Kamala was just buying her time. She was like, look, when's this guy going to finally leave. I'm sure she's sitting there behind her desk going, when is this guy going to to leave the Oval Office so I can step in? So for her, it was, who's he to appoint me? I'm just waiting on deck to take over. I thought the deal was he's going to sit there for a year or 6 months to a year, and then I was going to move into position. That's why all of this is probably happening.
But it's absolutely. But just consider that. I mean, she doesn't want to be border czar because she doesn't want to be associated with the debacle on the border, because that might affect her prospect eventually of becoming president. Another type of person would say, my God, there's a crisis on the border. The president has put me in charge, so I'm going to go to the border and sort it out. And if people criticize me, well, that's not my concern. I'm going to sort out the problem on the border because that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm the vice president. I'm an elected official. The American people have a right to expect me to do my job properly. That's what one might expect, how some people might think, but not Kamala.
Yeah, well, for her, being vice president was a temporary gig. I'm sure she's calling Barack and saying, Barack, you promised me by now that I would be in the Oval Office. What the hell's going on? Well, Barack's probably like, oh, what have I done?
I know. Well, I mean, as I said, they didn't think this through. They didn't work out properly what Kamala's skill sets were. They didn't consider this correctly, and as a result, we see what we see.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. To the Duran.locals.com, everybody. Take care.